South Sudan comprises of tribes. These tribes practice cultural values that form behavioral norms of people of the various tribes of South Sudan. As these various tribes collectively are put together to form a whole. Now, if you have noticed, I said as all these tribes are collectively put together, and this is true because they are indeed put together by the art of politics played by the British during the colonial era. The cultural value of each tribe is practically now brought collectively together. This is the beginning of the mess of today. Now imagine various values that composes distinct norms are collectively brought into a whole to make one people. This collection of people is called assembly. This collection of people will not remain assembly, but eventually transform into society through process of association. Now, the difference between an assembly and an association is that an assembly is collection of people put together, and what comes into mind is these people are put together but are not yet interacting. But when these people start interacting around principles, then they are associating. And through this association, then society gets formed. It is in this process that the distinct cultural values clash and creates conflict of cultures. When this happens, the individuals who are practicing these cultures are the ones who are then clashing, because the cultural values that compose beliefs and gets reflected in form of truth are practiced not in a physical form, but are baked in the mind in form of ideology. So basically, physically, all you see is individuals are the ones who are clashing. For this reason, we see people clashing, but we don't see the ideas because ideas are psychologically managed. At this point, compromise or consensus of ideas are necessary for the formation of a society. The process by which this happens is called a social contract. It's right within this avenue that special interests gets identified. This concept of social interest, or rather social contract, is argued by many sociologists, Thomas Hobbes, Immanuel Kant, John Stuart Mill, and many others, as basis for formation of what gets to be referred to as government. This is one way by which a government gets formed, and political science says it's the only way by which government of the people can be formed. And such a government would be able to give the people democracy. Because as the people come together to form a society, they would slightly differ in opinions, especially on their interests. And as such, majority opinion must reign, and that is democracy in exercise. As the ideas are put together, and the ones that are agreed upon then gets or forms basis of what gets to be known national ideas or national interests. That needs to be protected, of course. The ideas would then be protected or enshrined in an instrument called the Constitution of the People. The above is not the way we in South Sudan formulate national ideas or national interest. In order to institutionalize the ideas or interest into a constitution, that is why South Sudanese shall not experiment democracy in the current status quo. South Sudan is a country formulated through a theory called forced theory or conquest theory. Now, what I would like to do is I would like to play video here, and I would like you guys to listen carefully what conquest theory is, and we'll continue.
Think about where you live, the country, the state, the province, or county. What do you know about where it came from? There are several different ways that countries and states can take their shape and define their borders. Sometimes this is done peacefully or naturally, when a group of people decide to work together to make a society function. More often, though, it is done through the use of force when one group becomes dominant over the others. This process of establishing a new state or government through the use of force is what's known as force theory, which is also sometimes referred to as conquest theory. Force theory occurs when a person or a group of people take control of an area, such as a state, and make everyone in that area follow their rules and beliefs. For example, if you were to successfully invade Canada and make everyone in the country abandon their old ways and adopt your new rules, it would be a demonstration of force theory. Although force theory is the way that most Western countries have been formed, it is not the only way. An alternative to force theory is what is known as social contract theory, which is when a group of people living in the same area agree to follow certain rules and expectations in order for their society to remain stable. While the two theories mentioned are generally how states and countries take shape, they often unfold in different ways and can be identified by the presence of certain elements.
Okay, this is how this video ends. It's something that's released by an educational institution, so one has to subscribe in order to get full version of what's getting said. But the two theories that has been given, I think, is enough, because what I've already spoken about social contract that gets to be formed when communities come together naturally to form what is called a government. However, the SPLM, the government that we are seeing in South Sudan, in which the SPLM party are ruling, came in through what's called the force theory, as you might have heard. That is, a group of people came together, just like the SPLM organization or movement that got formed, and then fought. Yes, they created a platform where people then came and voted for the country. However, the people are not getting what is called the power to drive the agenda of the country. SPLM remained the only organization that was organized and grabbed power right in their hands and are driving the agenda of that country as they wish. And the resources of the country are now owned by pretty much the SPLM organization and the SPLM elites. And the people, for that matter, are left without any power in their hands, but simply figuring out their lives within their communities. And for that reason, because the government of South Sudan has been created through what's called a force theory, political science then will say that democracy will not be seen in South Sudan at all. Democracy is a fallacy to be achieved. That's why Equatorians, you must come together and call out for federation or federalism to save the day for your freedom to administer your territories as you wish. But how will you do that? The only option you have right now is to see into it that the current holdouts, the SOMA, who have now signed the Rome Declaration, should go and table federalism as the central agenda. But how do you convince SOMA? You got to come out, call SOMA for a conference, and persuade SOMA to understand that while they are calling out for the root causes and centralizing the argument there and presenting so many items under root causes, it makes the whole argument blurry and not very clear, and it becomes abstract that way. It will be best to have federalism as the central agenda around which a deal can be struck. Because as a matter of fact, and I want you guys to see this in the concept of cause and effect, causation and effect, or cause and effect. The truth is that cause here is what is called absence of federalism. Absence of federalism is a cause, and it has created effect. And what are the effects? The effects are then, we have seen crumbling insecurity within the states. We have seen absence of law enforcement that could enforce land laws. And we have seen deteriorating security within the states. All those are effects. But the causation is actually absence of federalism. So if federalism gets to be placed as the central agenda around which a deal can be struck, that will be simple and clear. And for those who are coming out as the mediators who would like to resolve the conflict in South Sudan, seeing that will not be abstract, and it will be simple and clear. And finding a resolution would also be simple and clear, opposed to sometimes calling all the elements within what gets referred to as root causes at this time, which sounds very blurry and abstract. Because as a matter of fact, not all those items are causation. Actually, the causation is one. It is absence of federalism. The rest are effects or symptoms that is caused by absence of federalism. So, fellow Equatorians, it is up to you to get the SOMA leadership in a conference and deliver this message clearly, so that if SOMA goes to Rome to sit down and negotiate what has been signed under Rome Declaration, then they will centralize the agenda of federalism. In this way, if it really gets struck, then the country runs under a decentralized system, which eventually we are going to see federalism, and that will save you, the Equatorians, the day to be free to administer your territories. Thank you very much. This is information from the EQUATORIA Advocacy Foundation. Until we meet again or interact again for another discussion, protect yourself from COVID-19, and thank you very much. God bless you.